So here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. It's a recurring theme on my channel. If anybody knows me in the province, I've been a sports reporter and editor in New Brunswick dating back to the mid-1980s. I always sit back and say to myself, well, who are they going to put in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame this year? Well, a lot of good people get in, but the have assisted in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame I've criticized. They're reactive, they're not proactive. They wait for nominations from the public and judge them and by their criteria and put deserving people in. There's a lot of deserving people in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame, but what about the people that don't make it? It came up a few years ago where I confronted some members of the group over the fact one of the greatest marathoners in Maritime's history, the great Joe McGuire of Woodstock, has been nominated for the Hall and is not in. That's like not putting in Bill Koch for cross country or Joan Benoit Benoit for women's long distance track and field. It just doesn't make any sense. Now here we are in 2021, and something is coming to my knowledge because someone tipped me off on my YouTube channel. This guy is part of one of the most important sporting families and social families of New Brunswick. Now, the Nicholson family, I've covered members of their family for news, for business, for sports, for politics. Tremendous extended family. Nicholson, like Jack Nicholson. Now, this gentleman, he's an original New York Islander, draft pick of the Oakland, California Golden Seals, was a star in the Frankton minor hockey program for a few seasons before excelling in London before being drafted. Great in the minor leagues, great in Europe, outstanding two-way player, big right-handed shot, and was on Halifax Memorial Cup squad in 1967 and on Franklin's one for 1968, or like towards the playoffs. Is he in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame? No. And I'd like to know why. So if anybody in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame is listening to this, and you probably will, or find out, Clem Trombley or whatever else, why isn't this guy in the Hall of Fame? Anyway, today we're talking about a Providence Reds alumni, to all my friends in the Rhode Island Reds Alumni Society, Neil Nicholson. And if anybody with the Reds wants to contact the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame, be my guest. I've talked to him before and he don't listen to me. Maybe you could help out. Now, Neil Nicholson was born in the great unofficial second capital of New Brunswick, St. John, New Brunswick, September 12, 1949, still called St. John home. Now, first came to major prominence for a lot of these fans with the Frankton Junior Red Wings of the NBJHL in 1967. Now, he had 20 points that year, and of course he skated 4 games with Halifax Junior Canadians as part of that Memorial Cup situation. Now, 68 with the Frankton Junior Red Wings and the Frankton Red Wings of the NBSHL. He had a combined 35 games that year, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points in a regular season with 17 games, 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points in the playoffs. Now, 1969 found his way to the great London Knights of the OHA, where he put up some tremendous numbers: 42 points in 54 games, 16 goals, 26 assists, with 2 assists in the playoffs. Now, 1970 was a weird year for him because after California drafted him, 6th round, 65th overall, in a very, very strong draft in 1969. He ended up with the Providence Reds for most of the season, and again put up some okay numbers, 24 points in 63 games, but was called up to the Seals as a playoff replacement and skated in two games for the squad. Now, here's where it gets bizarre again. Still on the defensive side. Very strong defenseman. I heard he played forward every once in a while. Still on the defensive side. Back to Providence in 71. 24 points in 56 games. 4 goals and 1 assist in 10 playoff games. Another big season where Providence put up some tremendous numbers. 36 points in 73 games, scoring 18 goals, and 4 points in the playoffs. And here where his career took a major shift. 1972-73 with the Islanders in the league. He attended New York Islanders training camp, but did not make their NHL roster out of camp. Now, he also, like I said, also played right wing to his pro career. He eventually made the Islanders that year on December 3rd, 1972, in a game against Boston. Now, that year, with also tied with the New Haven Nighthawks. He had 19 points in 43 games with them, but again 30 games with the Islanders. Again, a inaugural Islander, original Islander. 4 points in 30 games, including 3 goals. Now he played 8 games with the Islanders in '74 before he found himself, of all places, fourth worst of the CHL. Now, 8 games in New York in '74, but in '74, Fort Worth put up, again, tremendous numbers. 26 points in 47 games. He was still playing some right wing. 75 still with Fort Worth. 61 points in 74 games. Then with Fort Worth Texans again, 76. 55 points in 74 games. And then with the Fort Worth Texans again, 49 points in 65 games. Of all things, 4 years later, he made it back to the Islanders for 1 game in 1978, still with Fort Worth. Had what a lot of people considered almost his career year, because he put up 58 points that season in the regular season playoff, 18 goals, 42 assists for 50 points in 83 games. Now here, his career took another shift. He played with Fort Worth for 19 games in '79, but he jumped to SC Lugano of the NLA in Europe, where he put up 16 points in 28 games, including 8 goals. The next several seasons, he played with SC over from 1980 to 1983, putting up 20, 30, 30, and 29 points, very consistent, 11, 15, 12, and 17 goals. Played with the Dallas Blackhawks in the CHL for 10 games in '82. Then he kind of had a homecoming in the '83 season, because obviously St. John, Moncton, Frankton, very close areas. He had 2 assists in 12 games with Moncton of the AHL. Back with SC Lugano in '84 and '85, 26 points in 39 games, and then 13 points in 27 games in '85. And he went over to Swiss League in '86 and '87 with EHC Thun Stitzberg. He had 32 points in 22 games in '86, 13 points in the playoffs, then another 12 points in 22 games in 1987. Now, full NLA totals, top flight numbers all the way around. 164 points, 82 goals, 82 assists in 228 games, and 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 points in the NHL regular season, and of course those 2 playoff games for Oakland. Okay. Now, he was named to the CHL's All-Star First Team with Fort Worth in 1977. He played on the Fort Worth team that won the CHL regular season title, and also won the CHL Adams Cup with Fort Worth in 1978. Now, his minor league playing rights were sold by California to Providence in October '71. Then he was selected by the New York Islanders from Salt Lake. WHL was a California affiliate on June 6, 1972 in the interleague draft. Now, he also signed with the Islanders as a restricted free agent after spending the 1979 season in Europe. Now, the only blip on his career in the early years, he was missed part of the 1970 season with a knee injury, but it didn't seem to impact him that much. Now, he was also selected by the Winnipeg Jets in the '72 WHA draft, the first ever draft in February '72. But when he broke up in Providence, he not only was a fan favorite, he got to talk to the fans quite often, because that year he was called for 10 major penalties in his rookie pro year with Providence in 1970. Now, we talked about he was called up to Oakland on April 7th, 1970 as a replacement for the playoff series versus Pittsburgh. And if you ever see tape from that series, that was a very exciting set. Now, when he started playing right wing, he was with Providence, and he did so well that he would play on occasion. And being a good Maritimer, we can play any position in hockey. Now, He also served as the Zurich Lions head coach for the second half of the 89 season through the halfway through the 89-90 season towards the final year. Now, he returned to Canada after his playing and coaching career in Europe, and he became a player agent with International Sports Management, the company that helped him go to Europe in the first place. Now, he remained with ISM until 2001. He eventually became a successful sales and marketing executive with the McCann Equipment Company, which a lot of people in Canada know. It's a prominent Canadian tool manufacturing business, and he joined them in 2001. So here we have, ladies and gentlemen, okay, a prominent draft pick of the Oakland California Seals. Played in probably one of the most important playoff series for Oakland in the early years. An original New York Islander, a CHL All-Star, a CHL champion, a European multiple success overseas, a hometown hero at Fort Worth, Providence, all these great hockey areas throughout the years. New Haven, played with Moncton, okay. Was part of the Islanders system on and off for a number of years. Again, inspired a lot of Maritimers. And still, ladies and gentlemen, has he been considered for the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame? We don't know, because he don't talk very much. But from the time he invested himself in minor hockey, okay, to the time he retired, okay, that was 3 decades or 20 years, parts of 3 decades, 60s, 70s, and 80s, in some of the top teams. Frankton, Halifax, London. It goes without saying that's 3 of the greatest places to play minor hockey or major junior across Canada, or excuse me, elite junior, because Frankton, we have Moncton, St. John, and the Bathurst in the Q League. I've covered junior teams from Frankton. I've covered junior teams from Halifax, junior teams from London. I've done some coverage of the old New Haven side, Fort Worth side. The amount of people that follow these teams should have given mention to the New Brunswick organizers of the Hall of Fame. This guy deserves recognition, because he went from a community at the time, I think Frankton was, 40,000 people, give or take, all the way from Frankton, drafted in the NHL, okay, original New York Islander, played with Providence, one of the most respected and enjoyed teams of their area. Everybody wanted to have their farm team in Providence. I've done a podcast on that. Went in the midst of Texas in Fort Worth and played his heart out for those what I call the Dallas fans, or fans down there, and playing in the NLA where Canadian team players were highly respected. But when you're not proactive in a sports Hall of Fame, when you don't check Wikipedia or check statistics or check research and reach out to these people, like the Hockey Hall of Fame does not wait until a fan nominates Doug Gilmour or nominated Guy Lafleur or Martin Brodeur or Lanny McDonald. Like, reactive Hall of Fames are terrible, ladies and gentlemen. There should be a way to get federal heritage funding for every small town or big town Hall of Fame to have a reactive committee set up, or a regional committee where it could be Western Valley, like Southern New Brunswick, or the St. John River Valley, or Restigouche County, or Chaleur, or Kedgwick, to nominate people for this. Do they make the efforts in Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame to recognize people like Neil, who basically did it in silence? Because you didn't see Neil that often in the sports write-ups back in the day. He was a player that dedicated himself to go with teams that wanted his services and wanted him to play at. Now, does that diminish the people in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame? No. But it diminishes the fact they're not smart enough. I don't believe they're stupid, but they're not really smart, if that makes any sense. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing here, ripping apart the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame and trying to change the process for the whole province, And having my say as a person who's covered sports as long as I have, a person who's won more awards than anybody can remember, because some of my awards were thrown out into the garbage dump when the Campbellton Tribune was bought to the lousy news. No joke. You know, some of the awards are in a garbage dump up in the North Shore. I kid you not. You can't make this stuff up. You just threw them out. They didn't want to keep them. Anyway, if you're listening to this, give the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame a call. It's on Google. It's Wikipedia. Send them this podcast and have them call me, and I'll give them a lecture over the phone. I'll take a full responsibility for bringing this up. But people like Neil should be in the Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame, in my basic opinion. The numbers are here, ladies and gentlemen. The numbers are here. For God's sake, him alone being an original Islander, who he played for and against, should be something alone should get recognition. And playing, again, what do you have to do? I mean, what do you have to do? Anyway, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And again, this is a shout out to the Rhode Island Reds Alumni Heritage Society. Thanks for the support, gentlemen. And I'm not doing this because you tipped me off about him. I'm doing this because someone ticked me off recently by mentioning, how come he's not in the Hall of Fame? Anyway, hope you put up on my diatribe. Have a good evening. Bye.